Hello everybody, my name's Chelsea and this is a complete fail. So it's currently 1:53 AM on the 1st of May and I was just about to upload today's video when I checked Steam. Now this video thing has kept me pretty busy and I hadn't checked Steam for a long time, nor have I had time to play for the last couple of days, being busy with videos. And that turns out to be a massive mistake, because the topic of today's video has been completely changed with the new update. So yeah, that's rough, man. Tilted a little bit there. But I'm going to upload it anyway, not because I expect you to watch it, but because I use this video to commemorate my first identifiable subscriber. So unfortunately, CMM is going to be commemorated in my massive fail, but commemorated nonetheless. So sorry about that, CMM. Just FML, man, FML. But I do hope that you enjoy it in spite of all of that. Alright, have a good one everybody. Hello everybody, my name's Chelsea and today we're completing the Deserter quest within the first 9 days of starting a Merciless Naked Brutality playthrough with Randy. Well, technically 7 days if you don't count travel time to the outpost. Anyway, the rules are simple. Accepting the Deserter quest must be the first game action, and we must build a base with defenses before we attack the outpost. Because that's what you would do if you aren't in as much of a hurry as I am and want to ensure your colony's long-term survival. So this is how quickly it can be done without sacrificing your early game. As some of you probably know, the Deserter quest is one of 2 introduction quests from the Royalty DLC. Obviously, you don't normally start your playthrough by receiving a quest. In the case of the Deserter, you usually won't even receive it within your first season. So we'll be using the developers tools to conjure it up. And if you've seen my other videos, you also know that I like to make things difficult. So on my first try I went with 200 points and beat it without major issues. Therefore, we're going with 350 points, and that did take a few tries. Some of them were close, even survived once, but subsequently died to an infected wound. But often, between the superior armor, weapons and numbers, they were a complete blowout. However, if you aren't using the developers tools, remember that the intro quests for both the Empire and the Rebels, that would be the Wimp and the Deserter quests, will only be offered once. So you're going to have to make a decision in the early game, particularly in regards to the Deserter quest, because there's no incentive not to accept the Wimp quest. I've put several timestamps in the description in case there's a specific part you want to jump to. Anyway, let's do this. Everybody, meet CMM, and I hope I'm not butchering the name, because he is named after the first identifiable subscriber to my channel, so they deserve to be commemorated in their very own video. CMM is your regular tribal naked brutality pawn. 0 and minor passion in everything except crafting and cooking due to his childhood backstory, and he has 2 in those. Now the quest is about, you guessed it, a deserter, in this case called Euphemus Melinos. Cause Randy just loves forcing me to make a fool of myself, let's just call him Melis. He has gone AWOL from the Empire and wants to join us. By accepting the quest, we are going rogue. Together with him, we'll form a resistance to the evil tyranny of the Empire. Now you might think you wouldn't be able to advance within the Empire if you accept the Deserter quest. That's actually not the case, but we'll cover that later on. However, when we accept it, the Empire is going to do their best to annihilate us. In this case, Merciless is being hunted by 2 troopers, and in return for our help defeating them, besides his services, he also has some useful information about an outpost with a psychic amplifier, silencer, and 3 side trainers. Side note here, the trainers change, so you won't necessarily end up with the 3 you see here. Now let's check out where the outpost is. That's not too far away, but it isn't close either. And as you can see here, it's home to 2 enemies and probably a turret or 2. Now let's check on Merciless. Merciless is equipped with a bio-coded LMG, which isn't the best weapon. If you're doing it in the early game, I would say a chain shotgun is probably the best weapon for the deserter to be carrying, due to shield belts and charge lances, both of which are common at 350 points. Merciless has some pretty decent skills. His traits suck though, but 9 in shooting is going to be very helpful, particularly with a weapon that sprays as much as an LMG does. He's well armored, which is usually the case. So our main problem is CMEM. We're going to build our base right around here, so we're gonna try to cut down a couple of trees before the loyalty squad gets here, in hope of crafting a bow in time. However, they always arrive almost immediately, sometimes walking in from the edge, other times dropping in randomly. Today they're dropping right on top of CMEM, so we best get him out of here pronto. I think we should try to get the lads into the nooks here along the mountains. 80% of the time, I would say, the loyalty squad attacks immediately, but occasionally they wait. But this time they're coming straight for us, so this isn't going to work. Let's just have Merciless stop running over there. Inigal here is carrying a good LMG, not bio-coded, and Kusra got herself a bio-coded heavy SMG. So there's going to be a lot of spraying going on. But frankly, this is probably the lightest I've seen them armed and armored. Normally, at least one of them is wearing recon armor and a charge lance or assault rifle. So I think we stand a decent chance here if we can draw them into bad cover. Alright, so chunks provide 50% cover, so if we just send Merciless here, that will cover him from both the south and the west. And there's no good cover for them unless they get up close and real personal. Because trees only provide 25% cover. And there's no chance that they will take cover by the wall in the marsh there, because it will decrease their movement speed too much. Really? I was certain they wouldn't do that. Oh, you wouldn't after all. But Merciless actually got them pinned down pretty well there. So let's have CMEM try to go for a bow again. It's a little optimistic, but we can mine steel for a knife here, and CMEM would probably get killed trying to rush them, especially unarmed. With 9 in shooting though, I had hoped he would hit significantly better. But that's a problem with the LMG. It's great for large groups, but the spray is just terrible most of the time. Well, that does not bode well. And since the LMG is bio-coded, we can't use it. So, CMEM, I hope you've been into a lot of pop fights. Oh, that's excellent though. Merciless' last salvo took down one of them. And the other one only has 8 hours left. so we might still be able to make it. But we are actually just going to keep chopping wood. We want her to bleed out as much as possible before we rush her. The trooper has traversed the marsh, so we want to rush her before she takes up position. Too slow of me there, sorry Siemiam. But despite having 0 in melee, Siemiam proves himself a brawler. Everybody here except for Siemiam has a death acidifier, so everything on them when they die is gonna disappear. Anyway, time to rescue Merciless. We don't want to lose all that gear if he dies. Siemiam is selflessly putting Merciless before himself. Good man. Oh, Inigo isn't actually dead. With a bit of luck, we will really come out of this well. Sia is just going to grab a snack here, strip her, and then tend to himself. Now he'll put all of that on, and the LMG isn't biocoded, so this is an excellent result. Assuming that we don't get an infection. Alright, it's time to make our base. In regards to the base, the decision making here is pretty simple. We want to be near rich soil. For later, we want enough space for the geothermal generator. We want 4x4 bedrooms and a freezer next to the rich soil where our fields will be. However, we won't be building all of that before we attack the outpost. But I'm not going to show you the entire process, because that's not why you're here. I'm just going to show you how I went about the major things and the issues that came up along the way. I've put several timestamps in the description if you don't feel like seeing the main things that happened in our little 10-day journey. Merciless is going to deconstruct all of this, so we can use it to build our freezer. Meanwhile, Siemiam is going to get some wood, but they will be sleeping outdoors the first few days. Day 2, and Siemiam is going to use the wood to build a butcher table, greatly reducing the time we'll need to spend on hunting. But the cougar down here will probably hunt us sooner rather than later, so let's turn the tables on it. Unfortunately, that cougar was a quick one. But we got it, although it somehow managed to tear out Merciless's eye from behind. And that's not exactly going to make our upcoming task any easier. But we can't expect everything to go our way. Siemiam is just going to haul a few things and then patch up Merciless. There we go. Well, Merciless has had a rather trying 24 hours, so being a bit dazed by the whole ordeal seems natural enough. Meanwhile, Siemiam will spend the rest of the day getting more stone. Day 3, and this is what our initial base is going to look like. When Siemiam gets up, he's going to cut down a few plants and get started on building. And when Merciless snaps out of it, he'll get started on mining some steel. We also got a couple of traders, but unfortunately we have nothing they wanted and no silver. However, just as they leave, not only do they leave a small gift, 6 units of gold, but we also have another group of visitors coming. And even more visitors with something to trade. We are very popular. We sell our gold for 29 silver to the first group and buy a single unit of herbal medicine from the second one. When the first group leaves, they gift us a recurve bow, which we then sell to the second group for 6 silver. And that gets us an additional unit of herbal medicine. Our little base is coming along nicely even without Merciless' help. Although we are running out of meat because we want to keep our berries for traveling to the outpost. 70 hours in and we have a drop pot with a rather good farmer by the name of Gibson. So we're going to try to recruit him. Although he does come with a mild smoke leaf addiction. As CMEM tends to Gibson before carrying him back to our base, Merciless finally wakes up from his daze and sets about getting some meat for our table. We continue to hunt predators as a preventive measure, which I don't advise doing before you have a building to flee to or multiple hunters working together, unless you have more advanced weaponry like an LMG. Unfortunately, in the early afternoon, it's CMEM's turn to break. Subsisting on raw food and sleeping under the open sky does not appeal to everyone, damn hippies. Anyway, almost immediately afterwards, Gibson gets an infection, which means he's going to die, since Merciless won't do doctoring. And since we don't want him to die near our colonists, and give them a debuff, we'll let him rot far away. We've reached day 4 and CMEM's break is over. He's going to butcher the predators that Merciless killed and set about construction. Let's go with the resistance at IX3244A. And if you get that reference, you're a nerd and among friends. And if not, you're still among friends, but get googling. Our base is almost ready, but in the meantime, Merciless has killed a buffalo and Gibson has died. Merciless' next task is going to be mining steel for our traps. It's day 5 and Merciless is spending it deconstructing marble walls and mining a bit, while CMEM sets about making the base a little more civilized with stools, bedrolls and a table. In the evening we also have a slaver come by, although we won't get to see what they have on offer before CMEM wakes up. However, at 5 AM, just as we're about to enter day 6, we have another part drop. She has a bit of gear, and with the slaver nearby we certainly want something to trade. However, we're not going to try to sell them a dying slave. We don't need that mood debuff. And with extreme carcinoma, she isn't worth keeping around. So Merciless is going to collect her things before he gets back to mining. The slaver doesn't have much of interest that we can afford, so we'll sell the smoke leaf joints and the ambrosia and buy a single unit of medicine, which puts us up to 20 silver. CMEM spends the day planting our rice and building traps while Merciless mostly sleeps. As the slaver leaves though, they gift us a short bow. Our traders have been very generous with us, although it's not exactly great valuables they're giving us. Merciless gets up in the evening and sets about mining, while Siamiam will secure more buffalo meat for our little colony. We have reached day 7 and much of our meat has rotted away, but it's not a major concern at the moment. We need to finish off the last 2 traps and build an additional one in front of the door, in case a raider comes from the north, because then the door will be the likely point of attack. Once that's done, we are off. We won't even wait till the morning, because it takes 2 days to get there, but we are reasonably well equipped for the fight, and our base is as well defended as it can be without anyone there in this stage of the game. So they're going to eat some meat, take what meat they can with them before it spoils, along with bedrolls, berries and full units of herbal medicine. Now day 8 transpires with absolutely nothing happening. They're just walking across a map. On day 9 though, Siamiam has run out of food because Merciless is carrying the berries. Which admittedly isn't great planning, but there's nothing we can do about that now. Meanwhile, 10 ducks join our colony. Always nice to know that we have food waiting at home. Unfortunately, a fox soon sees an opportunity for a feast and starts killing off our new livestock. And just as we're about to reach the outpost, we have a wanderer join, named Jaguar. She's 54 years old, has decent traits and excellent skills. She does have 2 scars though, which are causing her serious pain, but we can't have it all. Her gear isn't great, but she does have a revolver, so she'll be able to take care of that fox that's plaguing our ducks. At 10 PM, our, let's call it elite force, finally arrives. From the look of things, one of the hostiles are missing, so they're most likely in one of the buildings. There are a ton of cocoa trees and a mega sloth that we're going to try to stay well clear of, but we'll talk about the rest in a bit. But for now, our fighters are just going to get some nourishment, because you never go to war on an empty stomach if you can help it anyway, and then we'll begin our assault. As you can see, we have a turret there, and we found the second enemy, who is wearing recon armor and a charge lance. So what we're going to do is hit the battery. It is too heavy for us to bring home anyway. By the way, the enemy that we spotted when we entered the map has moved up here, and she's armed with an assault rifle. Alright, so this is what we're going to do. The wall on the left here is perfectly placed, giving us complete cover. Merciless is going to move up to the edge of the mountain here. Siamiam will position himself in the nook here. So they both have a perfect vantage point of the door and the battery, and they're shielded from the turret. Well, charging us. A well-armored charge lance against 2 LMGs at close range. Someone's overconfident. Well done, lads. And that's enough to cause the other one to flee. But let's see if we can take her down too. That should slow her down. I think Siamian will be able to take care of the rest there, so let's have Merciless take care of the turret. And there we are, just as the fox seeks revenge on Jaguar. We would be hard pressed to have that go any better, I would say. By the way, notice in the corner there, we now have 3 days to collect everything we want. However, the lads are tired. We'll pick up the meals and that, and deconstruct some things, but we'll mainly let them do that in peace, and then pick up the amplifier and talk a bit about how you continue the rebellion in the morning. But for tonight, we don't want Siamian and Merciless to break, now that the hard part is over. Meanwhile, we'll just jump to Jaguar and have her use our basic defenses to conquer the monstrosity attacking her. It's morning and Merciless is hunting a buffalo to save the meals for the return trip. However, if that turns Manhunter, that would actually reset the 3-day timer. So in the fringe situation, you want to stay on the map for longer than 3 days. Killing any enemies, including Manhunters, will reset the timer once you have killed them. In other words, walking up close to a predator and attacking them is a good way to prolong your stay, although you might lose a limb or two. Anyway, Merciless is going to butcher that, and it's time for Siamian to grab what we came here for. So let's talk a bit about it. First off, psychic amplifiers are sanctioned by your local intergalactic empire, and you need to be a yeoman within the empire to be given one. Its use is detectable, and they won't take kindly to you using it illegally. You can also see here that each title gives you an upgrade to your amplifier. However, since we're now enemies of the Empire, that's going to be a little different, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Here we have the silencer that will make your psycasting undetectable, but it comes at a high price plus 20% pain. While I do recommend using it, it does mean that whoever your psycaster will be shouldn't have a trait like Wimp, for example. However, a trait like Masochist becomes much better. Now the operation requires 2 medicine, which is why we bought one earlier, and 5 in medical. So we can't install it straight away. Normally you would be further down the line before completing this quest, and therefore be more likely to have the capabilities to install it. Then we have our 3 side trainers. You don't have to install them immediately. In fact, you shouldn't, because your psycaster might die before ever getting to use them. So while I'm installing them here, for the purposes of the recording, in order to show you their use and limitations, I generally suggest only installing the burden in this case and storing the rest. Here we are. As you can see, 2 of them are grayed out, which means that we'll need to upgrade our amplifier in order to cast them. How do you do that? Quests. You can see here that it states that there are 4% chance of detection, and the likelihood of detection is the same between animals and humans. Frankly, in my experience, it practically never happens. But you should never plan for the best case scenario on the rim. That's a surefire way of dying. Honestly, The rebel part of the royalty DLC isn't well thought out. Disclaimer and all that, I think the world of the Rim, but nothing is perfect. You will still get quests from the Empire. You will not lose any titles you already have by accepting the Deserter quest and becoming enemies of the Empire. And despite being hostile with the Empire, you can still gain new titles and generally advance. The quest rewards will simply focus more on repairing your relationship with the Empire. However, as long as you're hostile with the Empire, you can receive quests once in a while that will give you amplifiers, silencers, side trainers, so forth. So being a rebel is more a question of roleplay and the occasional Empire raid. There isn't anything to it beyond that. There is no rebel endgame. You can host a Stalag or build a ship. Those are your options, at least for now. Anyway, there isn't much more to it. Being a rebel is a way of life that the Empire seems unable to entirely grasp. It is fun if you're into role-playing, but if you're more focused on always playing better and making smarter choices, you can basically just ignore the Deserter. Because earlier, when your nobility became lazy entitled B-stars, the incentive was much greater. But after that changed, it's not worth it from an efficiency perspective, at least in my perspective. Because while it gives you a free well-armed pawn and a second Psycaster, it will significantly slow down your progress within the Empire, and you'll end up spending a ton of time and or resources to close that gap. Before we end the video today, I do want to show you the loot of our little trip though. If either of the lads had had 5 in handling, I would have brought 1 or 2 Muffalo with us to carry everything back, from the chocolate to the bed, cloth from the sandbags and so forth. But anyway, I hope you found the video entertaining and or informative. If you want more videos like this, click the subscribe button. As always, if you have any comments, questions or requests, write them in the comment section and I'll be sure to get back to you. Lastly, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, it'll be much appreciated. Thanks for joining us.